Welcome to day 4 of your Progressive Challenge Pilates Reformer workout program. You've made it through days 1 through 3. Today is day 4. We're going to be focused all around core, specifically focused around deep core, obliques, all that good stuff. So as always, I will provide options from beginner to intermediate to advanced so everybody will get what they need out of this program. And as always, if you are not yet subscribed, please subscribe. There are 10 days in this program. We have 1 more on the main channel. If you're interested in getting days 6 through 10, I also have a membership where you can access those additional 5 bonus days, weekly workout plans, exclusive workout videos, bonus content like restorative, all that good stuff. So you should definitely check that out. I promise it's very juicy, very worth it. Today, no props necessary. We will load on 3 heavy springs and 1 light spring. I have a balanced body reformer. So for me, that's 3 red springs and a blue spring. Headrest will be down to begin, and let's get started. So coming to lie down on our backs. Let's begin with the feet on the outer corners of the foot bar. We're gonna aim our feet less on the front of the bar, more on top of the bar. Place your hands down on your rib cage. We're gonna take just 1 moment to practice our deep core breathing. So taking a big inhale, we wanna focus less on the breath, filling the belly up toward the ceiling and more on the lungs or the ribs expanding out to the side and into your back, into the mat, and then coming together. So if you imagine like you had 2 triangles where your lungs are, we want to imagine that air filling into the bottom of the triangle. That's that diaphragmatic breathing we want. The reason why this is important is in Pilates, we don't want to lose that core control by really emphasizing that belly breathing. We instead want to direct the air into the actual diaphragm, which sits right below your lungs. Good. Now, arms will reach down by your sides, palms flat down onto the bed. Just as we did on one of the other sessions in this series, we're going to find a pelvic lift. So it's not a full bridge up. Instead, we're going to lift the hips up only as high as you can fit a fist under your sacrum, that lowest part of your back, right under your butt. And we lower down. We lift, exhaling as we come up, and we lower down. So again, it's not coming all the way up into a full bridge or moving the carriage back. We really want to keep the carriage very still. Find that little baby bridge, that pelvic lift. And the key here is, instead of focusing on the glutes gripping, we want to feel like all those muscles between your hip bones are pulling toward the center line of your abdomen. It can start as, of course, with a pelvic lift, pelvic floor lift. So if you're unfamiliar with Kegels, it can feel like a lifting and drawing in and up. And that can marry together with that sense of the hip bones pulling together. You may also feel subsequently like this belly button is pulling upward toward your sternum. But we always want to imagine it starting from the foundation, the pelvic floor on upward. Good, let's take another 5. Really trying to zero in on that lower abdominal connection, that deep core connection. And again, all your breathing, I want to focus that expansion into your back and into your sides. Let's hold that little hover, little pulses up and down, trying to keep the carriage as still as we can. Again, this is all focusing around the hip bone area and below. That's our goal. If you feel lots of gripping through your upper abdomen, it's probably trying hard to compensate. Just try to remind it to calm down. Good. 6, 5, 4, 3, last 2, and 1. Now, my beginner folks, you can place your hips down so your back is resting on the mat. Everybody else, intermediate, advanced, keep your hips hovered. We're going to all extend the legs and bend the knees to come in. Keeping that hover, if you're doing the hover, extend and bend. So yes, we're getting more legs now, but we're controlling the pelvis, keeping it really steady and stable using your deep core. So while we're extending and bending, I'll remind you, we definitely don't want to arch the back or tuck it under dramatically. We want a nice neutral spine. We want to keep breathing. And we also want to move the carriage intentionally, but with control. So we don't want to pop out, let the springs shoot us in. See, that's a bad example, right? Or a good example of a bad practice. We want to extend with control and bring it in with control. Good. Speaking of which, bring it all the way in. Close the stopper. Once the stopper is closed, lower your hips, rock your knees side to side, and we will move on. We're going to do some hip dips. So the feet are going to come to the bar, hip distance apart. For my beginner friends, arches of the feet to the foot bar. Your toes will be right in line with your knees, which will be right in line with your hips. For my intermediate advanced folks, you're welcome to come up to the balls of your feet with the heels lifted. So, to begin, now, instead of that baby bridge where we're hovered, we're going to find a full bridge. So what does that mean? We want a diagonal line from the knees to the hips to the shoulders. So we don't want to break in that line with the hips really low. Once we're there, we're going to try to hold the carriage really still. Dip your right hip low and exhale, bring it up. Dip your left hip low. Exhale, bring it up. So we're not letting the hips both dip down. One of your hips is staying completely still while we pivot and let the other one lower down. So intermediate folks, you're going to come up to the balls of your feet. Same idea. Now we have a little less room to pivot, so we have to work really intentionally. And of course, for anybody, if you'd like to make this a little bit more challenging, looking at you advanced folks, remove as many springs as you would like to. The less spring load you have loaded onto this exercise, the more challenging it becomes. So again, we're not letting the hips lower and lift. We're not letting the carriage drift too far out. We're keeping it really still. And we want these muscles right above our hip bones to be really in control, really active. Those are our internal obliques. Very important stabilizers and for holding in everything in your abdomen. Good, let's do 2 more sets. Right, pivot left, right, pivot left, back up. Now we roll the spine down, close the stopper if it got away from you, hug your knees in toward your chest, and exhale, rolling up. We're gonna move on. Next up, we're going to switch to 1 heavy spring and 1 light spring. I will remove my foot bar. For those who have a machine where you can lower your foot bar, more traditionally, you're welcome to lower it down. Next, we'll raise the headrest so we have some support under the neck. Grab both straps. We'll come back to lying down on our backs. We will place the right hand on the right strap, left hand in the left strap, and we will extend the arms right up over the shoulders. Now, a little positioning tip. A lot of folks like to let the hands drift past the shoulders. That's actually quite taxing on the shoulder muscles. So we really want to make sure the fingertips are at best right over the shoulders. If you need a little extra support, you can bring them a little further forward if necessary. So arms right up. When we're ready, we're going to bring one leg up to tabletop and the other leg up to tabletop. Now, if this is extraordinarily challenging for you, my beginner folks, you can keep the feet down on the sandpaper and just start marching the legs up one at a time. Okay, that's my beginner option. For my intermediate advanced folks, legs come up to our tabletop. We're going to begin tapping one leg down into the mat. Big exhale, bring it back up. Alternating sides, no matter which option you're doing. And switch. So I find these get very shaky very quickly. And switch. So we're definitely not pressing into the straps for this one. It's a little bit of a different exercise in that we're having to stabilize through the core to keep the carriage still for a change. Now, if you find you're getting a pinch in your back or you're not feeling that really specific core connection, you're welcome to imprint the spine, flatten the back into the mat. If that feels very stable to you, you're welcome to keep a more neutral spine. We're going to take 1 more each side. And last one, rest, exhaling as you come up. Feet come to the sandpaper. Close the stopper if it's not already closed, and let's just windshield wiper the knees side to side. Good. All right, stationary hands and straps variation number 2. Beginner crew, once again, we'll start with our hands right up over the shoulders. This time, we're gonna try to bring both feet up off of the sandpaper at once. Right leg to tabletop, left leg to tabletop. Right leg down, left leg down. Nothing's moving in the arms. Now we switch. Left leg to tabletop, right leg to tabletop. Left leg down, right leg down. So you're gonna alternate. Find that pause in tabletop. You can hold it for a split second if you like. And you're gonna keep that going. Again, flattening the back out into the mat if you like, alternating which leg you start on. My intermediate advanced folks, we will start extending one leg out and exhale, bringing it back in. Other leg extends out, big exhale, bring it back in. That feels very doable. Both legs extend out and exhale, bring it in. That's going to be more for my advanced folks. Now, another option, feet a little higher, will be a little less intense on the core. If we want a little bit more challenge, for my advanced folks, legs go really low. And same rules apply. You can imprint the spine, flattening the back out if you need to. If you have the stability to feel the core connection and not arch the back here, you can make sure you keep it in neutral spine. And you'll see my knees are coming in pretty close to my chest. I get a little bit more lower abdominals that way, but you can stop over your hips if that feels better for your body. We're going to do one more. Exhale. Good. Back to the sandpaper. And we rest. Nice spine stretch. The twist. Both knees to the right, eyes to the left. Both knees to the left, eyes to the right. Very nice. Let's get ready to move on. All right, next up, we will sit on up. Switch to one light spring or one heavy spring. The light spring will be more appropriate for the beginner folks or those who are building up strength. The heavy spring will be better for those who are more in that intermediate advanced range. Now, you're always welcome to add more resistance if you need it. I'm not opposed to that. If you have access to an even lighter spring and you find that you need that, 100%. Do what feels good to your body. It's really not that serious. So no need to be dogmatic about it. We will turn around to face the poles. Knees will come up against the shoulder blocks, standing on your shins. If you need a knee pad, of course, go get a knee pad or something squishy to go under your knees. We will walk our hands out along the frame. Now you'll see my hands are not right under my shoulders. That's because we need somewhere to go. Spoiler, we're going to pull the carriage forward and back. And you really want to bring your thumbs to the outside of the frame with the rest of your fingers. The reason is you can pinch your thumbs if you pull forward without watching. So we don't want that. It's not fun. I don't recommend it. And the goal here is we're going to pull the carriage forward and the knees are not going to pulse away from the hips. So push the frame away from you. Big breath in. Using your core and your upper back and your arms, you're going to pull forward, bring your shoulders over your wrists. We hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and return. Everybody's going to do the same thing for a little bit. Big breath in, push the frame away. Exhale, zip your core on. We pull forward, hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and return. Now on these next two, I really want you to observe, are you keeping this isolated in the upper body, or are you starting to let the knees come forward and get away from being under the hips? 2 more. Big breath in, really isolate this in the torso, and return. Last one, big breath in, exhale, pull forward, hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and return. Very nice. So, quick little child's pose. We're going to add on some flavor now, some leveled flavor. Coming back up to your palms. Beginners, we will pull forward, and your hands can be not crazy far away. If this is feeling like the resistance is a lot, bring them a little closer to your body. Walk them away or add more springs if you need more. Push the frame away. Beginners, you're going to pull forward just as you did. Now you're going to pulse the knees forward past your hips and then letting them come back and relax. So you're going to get the lower abdominals really engaged as we pulse back and forth. Keep going. You're going to do a set of up to 10 and then rest. Intermediate, advanced. We're going to pull forward, extend the left leg back. Now we're going to pulse the right knee forward for a count of 6, 4, keeping that leg in line with your hip, 2, and 1. Knee goes down. We switch to the other leg. Pulse that knee forward. 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one. Good. Place the knee down. Close the stopper with control. Child's pose. And rest. Good. We're going to roll up to sitting. Next, we will take a variation for obliques. So for this one, beginners and some intermediates, we're going to have the knees up against the shoulder blocks. You'll have your hands to one rail, and you're going to keep the arms straight. Hands will be a little bit closer to the carriage for this one. And same rules apply. We're not going to pulse the knees forward. And same rules as the first exercise apply. We're not pulsing the knees forward. We're going to pull forward using the upper body and the torso, and then return, feeling the obliques. We'll take 10 of those on each side. For my advanced folks, we will actually turn our bodies over to the left. Your right calf will be up against the shoulder blocks, and you're going to walk your hands to either frame. From here, we're going to pulse the knees, holding the shoulders right over the wrists. All right, so let's all do it together. I'll do 5 demoed with the first setup and 5 demoed with the second setup. So when we're ready, get into your placement. Without the holds, we're going to pull forward and release. Pull forward and release. So for beginners, we know we're not pulsing the knees forward. The obliques are kicking on just well enough. So beginners and intermediates picking that one, continue. Advanced folks, I'm going to join you. One hand to either frame. We're just going to pulse those knees forward, like we're kind of scooting the legs toward the posts. Everything else is staying still, like a picture. Keep your pressure into the palms. And let's return. Everybody, once you hit your 10, take your child's pose. Hips to heels, arms extend long on the frame. Exhale, let it go. Other side. I'll join my beginners for the first 5. In the first setup, advanced folks, as a reminder, you're going to have your left leg up against the shoulder blocks, hands to the foot bar. We're going to scoot those legs toward the poles. So, first 5, beginners, both hands to the right rail. We pulse forward and return. Again, just using the torso and the upper body. Knees are not getting into the picture. We're pulling the carriage forward so that my left shoulder comes above my left wrist. And this is 5. Beginners continue on there. Advanced folks, I'm coming to meet you. We're pulsing that left leg forward. Really feeling this along the internal obliques, which is sort of the lower part of the obliques. Might feel a little bit in your low back, in a way that means it's working the muscles, hopefully not a pinch. Once you've done your 10, you can return the carriage to a close. Both knees down to the mat. Extend your arms forward. Big breath in. Exhale. Roll up to sitting. We'll move on. For everyone, we will move into our long stretch, down stretch, knee stretches, elephant, and upstretch series. So let's put on one heavy spring and one light spring for this one. If as you get into it, you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, you can take off some of the springs. To begin, we're going to place the headrest up. Now, I'm going to give you 2 different foot setups that I find helpful. If this is your first time doing long stretch, which is kind of a moving plank, you're going to curl your toes under, place them up against the shoulder blocks. If you're experienced with this, you're going to place a sticky pad down, or wear something with sticky grips. Curl your toes under, place them up against the headrest, your choice. I recommend for beginners, feet up against the shoulder blocks. We're going to come to a plank position. So bring your shoulders right over your wrists. You're going to lift up the knees, press your feet back so that you are in this nice plank. Once you're there, you're going to do your best to press the carriage away, keeping that plank shape, bring it all the way back in. So we're going to keep that shape moving. Intermediate, advanced folks. Toes curled under up against the shoulder or headrest, excuse me. Find your plank. Now you're just going to push into the headrest, send the carriage away, taking as much range as you would like, and return. So we don't want to let the butt pike up here. We don't want to let it sink down too low. We want a really straight line. So I recommend thinking about your head moving on an upward diagonal as it comes back in, so that your head doesn't sink down here. Encourage your butt to lift. We'll take 2 more. And advanced folks, you can take this out as far as you can control. And return. Close the stopper, one knee down, other knee down. Take a little breather. Shake out your wrists. Good. Now, we're going to move into our down stretch. We're all going to do the same thing for this one. We'll curl our toes under, soles of the feet up against the shoulder blocks. You're going to lean your hips way forward, more than you think you will need to. But the thing is, we don't want to just hang out in our back flexibility. We need the abdominals to support this one. So you want the abs on, but we want to find a little scoop in the back shape. Open your collarbone wide. Pretend like you have that Ironman power core thing shining up and forward. Keep your eyes up as you press the carriage back. Hips must stay forward. Now think about your head lifting up to the ceiling as you come back in. Now, what I see typically in class, butt sticking back. We don't want any hinge in the torso. We want this nice big scoop shape. Core must be on, and I promise keeping your eyes high without craning your neck completely back. You still want to think long line through the neck. I promise that will help you nail this movement. Once you find it, it's definitely in the core. You'll feel it in the back and shoulders a bit too. Good. One more like this. And as you come up, think very important person, open chest. Beautiful job. Now we're going to flip to 2 heavy springs. And if that feels aggressive, especially for the beginner folks, you could keep it on a heavy and a light. Up to you. We're going to move on to our knee stretches. So we have 2 options for knee stretches. The first is going to be knees down. For the more intermediate advanced folks, you can explore knees off. I'll demonstrate both. For beginners, we're going to start with our toes curled under, feet flat against the shoulder blocks. Now for this one, we're doing the opposite of what I said to do in the previous one. So we're going to push the carriage away. You want to think really long arms. So at no point are the shoulders moving forward and back. Shoulders are stationary. Arms continue pressing away. You're going to flare your sit bones back. Knees come forward and past your hips. Keep that pressure in the bar, send your knees back. So it's kind of like you're sticking your butt out without arching your back. As the carriage comes back and forth, you're just hinging at the hips. You want your lower abdominals active. Intermediate, advanced folks, if you're not already there, you're going to lift your knees up, press away, hover the knees off, bend and extend. So the key here is, this can be kind of not challenging. If you have the knees hovered up high, we want the knees almost touching the mat as best as possible. Good, and this can be pretty brisk. Flaring your sit bones back too. We don't want to tuck the butt under here. 4 more. Last 3. Final 2. And 1. Hopefully my knees weren't too far off. All right, rest. Take a child's pose if you need it. Roll your shoulders back. Big arm circle if you like. We'll switch it back to a heavy and a light. We'll move on to elephant variations. Elephant can get kind of a reputation for being a beginner exercise, but it really is not. We have some foot placement changes we can explore that can be fun, but really when you dial into it in the right way, it's rather challenging. So on that heavy and light spring, we're going to stand up on the machine. Bring your heels up against these shoulder blocks. This is our starter version. We're going to lift the toes. We're going to shift so the hips are right over the heels. So we don't want the weight forward on the toes. We want hips right over heels. My beginner folks, we're going to press away from the carriage. Try to keep a flat back. Lift your abs in and up. We're going to keep the pressure in the heels. Push the carriage back. Come in. 3, 2, 1. Toes are staying lifted. Press back. Bring it in. 3, 2, 1. Intermediate Intermediate folks, same thing, but you're gonna come up onto your toes, heels up against these shoulder blocks. Pressed away from the carriage, we move back and forth. Advanced folks, proceed with caution, but make sure you're not too sweaty in the palms. You can bring your toes to the very tippy tops of the shoulder blocks, press away, keep that pressure against the foot bar, and use your lower abdominals to control the carriage in. So whichever foot placement you have chosen, we are using our deep core and our lower abs to control this carriage back and forth. And you'll notice, just as with knee stretch, I'm not moving the shoulders back and forth. It's all about that hip hinge. Last one. Very good. Now, if you have your toes up on the shoulder blocks, you're going to bring your feet down to the mat. Everyone will close the stopper. All right, there are some other variations we could do on elephant, but I know we don't have all day together. So we're going to move right into up stretch. So for this one, beginners and intermediate folks, we're going to come up onto the balls of our feet. Our heels are going to come up onto the shoulder blocks. We're going to hinge back. Advanced folks, you are welcome to come all the way up to the tippy top of the shoulder blocks. For this one, I'm going to demo with my feet down to start. So we will hinge back, hips over heels. We're going to press the carriage back, find a plankish position, bring the carriage forward, shoulders come up over your wrists. Now we're going to fold up, curl up through the spine, hips come back over your heels, press the carriage back again, find that plank, move it forward. Long stretch, once again, that we did at the beginning of the series. Carriage comes in, press back, hips over heels, out again. Plank it forward. Fold in, use your low abs to control, and press back. Advanced folks, you have the toes right on top of the shoulder blocks. Now, we're gonna reverse it. We're in our plank, we fold forward, bring the carriage in. Once we bring it as far as we can, we're going to round through the spine, flatten out to a plank, shoulders over wrists, and now we press back. Draw the carriage in, folding at the hips. Now we're going to articulate forward through the spine, shoulders over wrists, flatten out. We've got two more. Press out, fold in, round up through the spine. Last one. Carriage comes in, round the spine, bring the shoulders forward, and bend your knees, bring it in. Down to a child's pose, hips down to your heels, reach your arms over the foot bar. Let's rock into the left hip, reach the right arm forward on a diagonal, switch. Right hip back, reach forward on a diagonal with your left arm, back to center. Big breath in, exhale, roll it up, and you're all done. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Tomorrow's the last day of the program though. If you'd like the bonus 5 days after to make this a whole 10-day jam, sign up for my membership. I have weekly workout plans, exclusive videos. I think there are like 70 or I think there are almost 80 exclusive videos or almost 70. Something wild. Thank you so much to my members, speaking of which, whose support makes all of this possible. Super duper extra special thanks to the folks who have been with me for 6 months or more. Your loyalty means the world to me. I so appreciate all of you, and my ride or die Year Plus crew. Gold stars for all of you. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you all so much. I will see you tomorrow for day 5. All right? You're coming back? I'll see you. See you then.